Atomic orbitals is a concept that helps us understand where electrons live around the outside of an atom. We're going to learn how to write this very unique code that shows us the address of all the electrons around the outside of an atom. But in order to do that, we need to understand what atomic orbitals are. And to know what those are, you need to understand a little bit about quantum mechanics. If you don't, I have another lesson. The link will be right down there. Go back there, learn about quantum mechanics and a few other things, and then come back here and I'll explain to you atomic orbitals. Now here's a few key terms that if you're taking notes, you're definitely going to want to write them down. First one is the principal quantum number, which we use the little letter n to represent the principal quantum number. Again, this is why you need to understand quantum to be able to do this. Principal quantum number is the energy level of an electron. It's the energy level where an electron currently is. I've been using this as my example of the nucleus would be right here, and then these are the different energy levels where electrons could live around the outside of an atom. As we get further away from the nucleus of the atom, if an electron's living out here, it's holding on to way more energy than an electron living down here. And so we're now going to use, instead of calling these like the rungs of the ladder, we're going to call them the energy levels, which actually we're going to call them the principal quantum number. There are 7 energy levels around and outside of an atom. You'll see why later on. The other key term is atomic orbital. These are the regions where there's a high probability of finding an electron. Again, in the last lesson, we looked at what this whole thing means as far as electron clouds or probability of finding an electron. So let me show you what it means. The principal quantum number, or the energy level that we just learned about, is right here in this special address code. So on the first energy level, there are electrons living there. We can see in the second energy level, there must be electrons living there. And also in the second energy level, I don't know why that's broken up into 2, but I'm guessing we're going to learn right about now. That goes with our atomic orbital. So here's the thing. In the first energy level, in the atomic orbital called S, we haven't learned that yet. It's coming up. There are 2 electrons living there. On the second energy level, in the s orbital, there are 2 electrons living there. In the second energy level, in the p orbital, there are 4 electrons living there. Now, we need to get to the point where we understand what the s, and the p mean, because this doesn't yet make sense. So how do we know where oxygen's electrons live? Let me take you back. Here's our little model of an atom. This is showing an electron could jump up to all these different places. As it falls back down to its ground state, it can give off lots of different wavelengths of light. We see those wavelengths of light, and we can analyze each one of them. If we understand how much energy is associated with that color of light, we can figure out how much energy was given off by that electron, and we can figure out where that electron was and where it ended up. There are 4 atomic orbitals: s orbitals, p orbitals, d orbitals, and f orbitals. I want to go through each one of those individually. And these are unique letters. In fact, other places of the world use different letters for this, and that's perfectly fine. The concept is the same, but if you live in a different area, you might need to learn that, okay, we don't use S, P, D, and F, we use other letters, but the concept is the same. And here's the thing, why then do we have S, P, D, and F? Because initially, when these things were analyzed, and they're trying to analyze moving electrons, there were these electron cloud shapes that started to form, and the scientists that were studying gave them names. The first one we need to examine is called the s orbital. Now, I'm going to try to explain these the best I can, but in my class, what we do is we take notes on all of these things, and as we progress, we start to make a little more sense of them. So I'll encourage you to do the same. Take some notes as you go, and if it doesn't fully make sense, I promise you, all the parts and pieces are going to come together in later lessons. It's kind of like we're building a little castle and we have all these Lego pieces we need to put together. This is one of the pieces of the puzzle. So s orbitals, here's really what this means. When scientists were bombarded, this is my nucleus, okay, and this is going to be my electron. When scientists were bombarding atoms with photons and X-rays and other things to try to figure out where electrons lived on the outside, they started to find that, yeah, you know, there appears to be some that just kind of live in this spherical shape around the outside of the nucleus. So this is a very understandable, normal thing. Notice all the little dots. If you were following along on an earlier lesson about quantum mechanics where we were trying to chase this balloon around the room and we put a dot every time we found the balloon in the room, these are all those little dots. So there'd be a nucleus at the very center of that. And there just tends to be, sorry, there's my nucleus. There tends to be an electron somewhere right around the outside of that nucleus. That became the s orbital. It's spherical shaped. It gets its name because it was very sharp when they first started to analyze these. That was the name they gave them. Again, I don't think the name is an important thing to remember. But the first energy level, right in here close to the nucleus, tends to have 2 electrons because they can hold 2 electrons. I can only hold 1. I have 2, but I don't have enough hands. So, I mean, there's my nucleus, right? So I'll just use 1 to show you. And the second energy level, which is further away, that had 2 electrons. Third energy level, that had 2 electrons. And fourth energy level. Okay, so each energy level, as we get further and further away, had this shape that was spherical when they put dots all over their little map as they were trying to find electrons. The next one we need to learn are the p orbitals. The first energy level, so we have the nucleus, the first energy level right close to the nucleus cannot hold enough electrons to fit more than 2 electrons in there. So it's going to have 2 electrons at most right close to the nucleus because electrons don't like each other. They're negatively charged, so they're trying to get away from each other. If we have 2 electrons in close to the nucleus and another electron shows up to the party, there's nowhere for it to live. It has to live further away. So it would go to the second energy level. Now the second energy level is further away from the nucleus. So there's more room. It can hold more electrons. It can hold more than 2 electrons. So it's going to fill up the s orbital. Then it's going to start to fill up the p orbital. Now the p orbital, notice those are all the little dots or all the electron cloud that when scientists studied these, they made a little dot every time they bumped into an electron. And these are the shapes that started to form. I've separated them out, but they would be all around the nucleus. Again, stick with me, write this stuff down. A more clear picture of this is going to start to emerge as we learn more. Each one of those can hold 2 electrons. So that means the p orbital can hold a total of 6 electrons. That'll be important. Hang on to that. Gets its p name from principal. And we've heard that before with principal quantum number. Now these shapes look familiar. If you go back to that quantum lesson, because we saw these as we were making our map and figuring out where electrons live. The next one are the d orbitals. Remember, we have s, p, and d, and f. We'll get to that one. The d orbital doesn't start till the third energy level. The first energy level, right close to the nucleus, is very small. It can only hold 2 electrons. The next energy level out is much larger. It can hold a lot more electrons. But once it's full and another electron shows up, there's no room there. So it'll go to the third energy level. And we start to just build on more and more electrons around the outside. There are 5 different shapes in the d orbital. Each can hold 2 electrons. That means a total of 10 electrons in this d orbital. Those are all the pretty shapes that emerge. And finally, the f orbital. So the f orbital doesn't start till the fourth energy level because finally we're so far away from the nucleus. There's so much room out here that a lot of electrons can exist in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th energy levels. So there are 7 different shapes. We're finding out, each one of them can hold 2 electrons per shape. Really, that's because electrons don't like each other, so they'll try to stay as far away from each other as possible. If I have an electron over here on this side of my head, then the other one would just try to stay opposed to that. If I had one here, there'd be another one opposed to that. Can hold 14 electrons total. Gets its name from the term fundamental. So those are the different orbitals. Now, we need to go one step further with that and find out, okay, these are weird and they're awkward, and what do I use them for? Again, I said we're building up to be able to write the electron configuration or to be able to write the code of where all the electrons live. So stick with me for the next one and keep on learning.